Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So welcome to Shri Radha Govinda temple. Radha Govinda looks so beautiful today. And this particular dress that you see is made by Varanasi Mataji. And she has made so many dresses for Shri Radha Govinda. Tomorrow, a special occasion for Ram Navami, we will have another surprise and very beautiful dress again. So don't forget to come tomorrow. And we'll be having little Abhishek in the morning. Also, we'll be offering the Rajbhog to Ramchandraji, and we'll have the Rajbhog Aarti also. So, without further delay, today is the last day of Rama Katha. Tomorrow, of course, we will continue celebrating appearance day of Lord Ramachandra. There will be lot of kirtan, prasadam, and preaching, pravachan, all that. So, please be with us today and tomorrow. Jaya Radha Madhava Nikunjbihari, Jaya Radha Madhava Nikunjbihari, Gopi Janavallabha Girivardhari, Gopi Janavallabha Girivardhari, Jashodanandan Vraj Jan Ranjan, Jashodanandan Vraj Jan Ranjan, Jamuna Tira Vanachari, Jamuna Tira Vanachari, Jaya Radha Madhava Nikunjbihari, Jaya Radha Madhava Nikunjbihari. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ram Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ram Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Prabhupada, प्रभुपदा जय प्रभुपदा जय प्रभुपदा 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 जय प्रभुपदा। नमो विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्रजकाचार्य अष्टोत्तर सदा भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी शिल प्रभुपाद की जय। भक्ति सिद्धांत सरस्वती गोस्वामी महाराज की जय। अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय। नामाचार्य हरिदास ठाकुर की जय। प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधार शिवासिद्धि गौर भक्तवृंद की जय। अंतर्द्वीप मायापुर धाम की जय। वृंदावन धाम की जय। तुलसी देवी की जय। भक्ति देवी की जय। समावेद भक्तवृंद की जय। गौर प्रेमानंदे। All glories to assembled devotees. All glories to assembled devotees. All glories to assembled devotees. All glories to Guru and Gauranga. So we will continue from where we left off. Let's pray for the last time to Lord Hanuman, Mother Sita, Lord Ramchandra ji. Manovajam varututulya vegam jitendriyam buddhimatam varishtam vatattvajam वानरयूथ मुख्यं श्रीरामदूतं शरणं प्रपद्ये। इन्द्रियाणामधिष्ठात्री भूतानां चाखिलेषु या भूतेषु सततं तस्य व्याप्ते दिव्ये नमो नमः। या देवी सर्वभूतेषु छायारूपेण संस्थिता जगन्प्रिय जगन्मातर सीता देव्ये नमो नमः। रक्षिता शोष्यतस्य च स्वजनपि रक्षिता रक्षिता जीवलोकस्य धर्मस्य परन्तप। रामो राजमणि सदा विजयते रामं रमेशं भजे। रामेण विजया जया परभनं रामाय तस्मै नमः। रामात्मास्ति परायणं परतरं रामस्य दासोऽस्म्यहं। रामे चित्तलयं सदा भवतु मे भो राम मामुतरम्। So after praying to all our deities, we continue story of Ramchandra ji. Yesterday I had to stop because it became too much to learn that fearing such scandalous rascals, Lord Ramchandra decided to abandon his wife, Mother Sita. Srimad Bhagavatam, 9th canto, 10th chapter, verse number 10. Shukadeva Goswami says, Iti Shuka Uvacha Iti Lokad Bahumukhad Duraradyad Samvidah Patyabitena Satyakta prapta prachetu sashramam. Fearing such slanderous rascals, Lord Ramchandra decided to abandon his wife, Mother Sita. Now, once you abandon your wife, the husband and wife are separated. So, that was very sad news for me, and I could not read anymore. Today, let's get into the details of how he's managing to send Sita away. So, the verse is Patyayarte tatah Sita Vivesha jvalanam tada Pratyaksham tava saumitre Devanam havyavahanam. Lord Ramchandra says, O Lakshman, please listen with great attention, for what I have to say is most painful. I have just learned that some citizens of Ayodhya condemn me for taking Sita back from the kingdom of Lanka. Just see how distressed I have become. I have appeared in royal dynasty of Ikshvaku. Thus any taint of dishonor or my name brings me more grief than the thought of death. After killing Ravana, I also consider how can I take Sita back to Ayodhya. It was just to allay these doubts that I made the princess of Vidarbha enter the fire in the presence of all demigods and sages. Vayu and Agni declared that Sita was pure, and within my heart I also knew she was chaste. So I accepted her back. Now, however, rumors are spreading everywhere, and I am being blamed in my own kingdom. O Lakshmana, a person who is a target of rumors suffers great humiliation and defamation. Ill deeds are always condemned, and that is what motivates the noble-minded towards good acts. I am ready to give up my life, if necessary, to avoid public scandals. My dear brother, for ensuring my good name and reputation, thus what I can be said of Sita. I am drowning in an ocean of sorrow. Never before have I experienced such misfortune. Ashramo divya saukasham tamasatiramashritah tatretam vijane deshe visrujya raghunandanam. O Lakshman, tomorrow at dawn, you must take Sita to the banks of Ganga and take her on a tour of ashrama of great sages. Then abandon her near the hermitage of great sage Valmiki on the banks of river Tamasa and return to Ayodhya alone. My dear brother, you must carry out this order without any argument, for any slight hesitation on your part will bring me the greatest displeasure. Indeed, let it be known that anyone who objects to my decision immediately becomes my most bitter enemy. Just a little while ago, Sita told me she is very eager to visit all the ashramas along the banks of Ganga. Now go and fulfill her desire. अशुभानि बहुन्येव गंगातीरे माया देवी शीघ्रं गत्वा तु वै देहि शासनात् पार्थिवचन. Lakshman became broken-hearted to hear Ram speak like this. However, since he was obedient servant of his elder brother, he assented without hesitation. Then early the next morning, Lakshman went to Sita and said, "Your husband has ordered me. I shall escort you to banks of Ganga so that you can worship the great sages residing there. Sumantra is ready with the chariot, so I request you to come at once." Sita was delighted, and after putting on her finest dress and most exclusive jewelry, she told Lakshmana, "I shall distribute these and other gifts to the wives of the great sages." Ashubhani bahunyeva pashyami raghunandana nanan me spuratadya gatrotakam pascha jayate. Lakshman helped Sita onto the chariot, and they quickly departed. However, while going along, Sita began to speak anxiously, saying, "O Lakshmana, my left eye has suddenly begun to twitch, and my mind feels strangely uneasy. Suddenly, I feel very weak, and the earth seems to have taken a gloomy aspect. I hope Ram is all right." Sita prayed to the demigods for the welfare of her husband and other relatives. Lakshmana then said in a voice choked with tears, "I hope you too will not meet with misfortune." Lakshmana started crying secretly. After wiping the tears from his eyes, Lakshmana arranged for a boat and escorted Sita across Ganga. Upon reaching the other side, Lakshmana cheerfully confessed, "Raddantam me maharshalyam yasmat aryena dhimata asmin nimite vaidehi lokasya vachani kruta." Lakshman said, "O princess of Vidarbha, the all-good Lord Rama has entrusted me with a most painful task. Indeed, by performing this duty, I shall become infamous in the eyes of the world. It would have been better if I had died rather than execute your husband's order. O noble lady, please forgive me for what I am being forced to do." Lakshman fell to ground, weeping bitterly. With great indignation, Sita asked, "O Lakshman, what is the matter? I cannot understand what you are saying. Please tell me clearly what is troubling you. Has some great misfortune befallen Rama that you do not have the courage to tell me?" Shrutva parishado madhye रूपवादं सुदारुणं पुरे जनपदे चैव त्वकृते जनकात्मजे. With his head bowed down, Lakshman replied in a voice choked with tears. While sitting in the royal court, Rama learned that rumors are circulating throughout Ayodhya, accusing him for impropriety. Everywhere people blame Rama for accepting you back. This public censure pains him unbearably. O Sita, I know that you are faultless, and so does Ram. Therefore, do not misunderstand the king, for he has been forced to relinquish you to maintain the good name of Ikshvaku dynasty. O princess of Vidarbha, do not be broken-hearted, for the abodes of the Brahma Rishis that are situated on the banks of Ganga are celestially beautiful. You should take shelter of great sage Valmiki, for he was a good friend of your father-in-law, Maharaj Dashrath. Always think of Ram within your heart and remain unflinchingly devoted to him. In this way, you will attain the highest happiness, O Janaki. Mamikeyam tanurnunam srusta dukhaya lakshmana datraya syata tatha medya dukhamurti pradarshate. Upon hearing of her cruel destiny, Sita immediately fainted. Then coming to her senses, she pitifully cried out, now I can say that this life has awarded to me simply for suffering. What great sin did I commit in the past? What poor girl's marriage did I obstruct to now cause Rama to cast me off? Kintu papam krutam purvam ko vadore viyojita yaham shuddha samachara Chakchan Rupatina Sati. I faithfully followed my husband into exile, and I remain content despite innumerable hardships. O Lakshmana, how shall I be able to survive here alone? What will I tell the sages when they ask me why I am abandoned? What wrong have I done? I would gladly end my life by throwing myself into the Ganga. But what would bring about end of Rama's dynasty? I am pregnant and I am carrying babies in my womb. Becoming somewhat more composed, Sita told Lakshmana, Janasi cha yatha shuddha Sita tattvena raghava Bhaktya cha parcha yukta Hita cha tav nityasha. Sita told Lakshmana, I know that you are merely carrying out his duty. I do not blame you. Go back to Ayodhya now and offer my respects to my brothers-in-laws. Touch the feet of my husband and please deliver the following message. O Ram, you know that my devotion has been fixed upon you without deviation. You know of my chastity and my unfailing love. Still, from fear of dishonor and shame, you have spurned me. O Ram, my Lord and only refuge, you should not have done so. My dear husband, I do not grieve for my own misfortune, for I know that I am faultless. For a chaste woman, the husband is as good as God. Therefore, I must accept that whatever you may order is best for my welfare, even if it means giving up my life. Lakshman circumambulated Sita and crossed to the Ganges opposite shore. As Lakshmana mounted his chariot, he turned his head just to have one last glimpse of Sita. Likewise, Sita gazed sorrowfully at Lakshmana as he receded into distance. Then alone and unprotected, Sita fell on ground, crying uncomfortably. The grief-stricken Lakshman said, "O Sumantra, what terrible pain Rama will have to suffer now that he has abandoned his dear wife. Alas, he would wrathfully destroy the Rakshasa appears to be himself, ruled by cruel destiny. The sorrow Rama will feel shall far exceed what he experienced while living in exile under the order of his father." Sumantra replied, "O Prince, do not become overly aggrieved because of Sita and Ram." Now here at this stage, it's a long story, but Sumantra is trying to narrate what he heard. He said, one time, Lord Dashrath asked me to take him to Vasistha Muni's ashram. So Dashrath is going there. And surprisingly, he sees Durvasa Muni also there. So both of them arose and respected King Dashrath, and they all paid obeisances to one another. And they asked him to join whatever conversation was going on between Durvasa Muni and Vasistha Muni. Durvasa Muni says, one day what happened, that there was a war between demigods and demons, which is not unusual. It often happens in all scriptures. And then what happened, that when the demons found that they are losing the game, they started vanishing, leaving the battlefield and ran away. While they were running away from demigods followed them to catch them and kill them. But on the way, the demons saw ashram of Bhrigu Muni. So they decided that maybe we can ask for a shelter. So they entered their premises, and it was a beautiful ashram. And on the porch, they find Bhrigu Muni's wife. Bhrigu Muni was away. So all the demons with the folded hands, they offered the dandavat to Bhrigu Muni's wife. And they said, "Mother, we are like your children. Can you please give us a shelter? We need you badly. Please hide us." So Bhrigu Muni's wife says, "Atithi Devo Bhava." Bhrigu Muni is away, but you are welcome. Please hide wherever you want. This is all your cottage, your ashram. So the demons started hiding and also received some hospitality from Bhrigu Muni's wife. Demigods passed by, but they could not think that this is where they are hiding. Now, end of the day, Lord Vishnu wanted to know what exactly happened and what's happening. So demigods said, "Sorry, they escaped and we couldn't kill them. looks like they are hiding successfully. So Vishnu is trying to meditate and trying to find out that what's exactly happening. And he saw in his meditation that Bhrugumuni's wife is actually hiding them, giving them a shelter. So Lord Vishnu released his disc, which went to Bhrugumuni's ashram and cut throat of Bhrugumuni's wife. The head was separated from the body, and Bhrugumuni's wife died instantly. Now what happened? That demons, when they witnessed that, they flew away. They got scared that the mother is killed, and we don't want to be blamed for this event, so let's go away. So they decided to fly away, and demigods could not even find them. Bhrigu Muni is coming after a while, and he sees that his wife's head is cut. He figured out right away that this way only Lord Vishnu can cut the heads, because this is a cut of a disc, and Lord Vishnu has used that. Disc must have gone back to Vishnu, but he meditated and he saw Lord Vishnu. And Vishnu was pleased that he punished, because she gave shelter to demons. Now you know, in 1968, there were some riots in my hometown between Hindu and Muslims. On the gates, there are many gates, every street, has gates. And if you go to Hindu area or if you go to Muslim area, what they used to do is that they used to cut the head of a person and then hang it with a rope on the gate. Sometimes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 heads, sometimes more than that. But everywhere you walk, you see they used to cut the head. In those kind of days, what happened that a little boy was in my area, and my mother asked, "Whose boy is you? Who is your dad? Who is your mom?" And the boy says, "My name is Hassan. My father's name is Abdullah." So my mother figured out right away that here is a boy who is Muslim, and he must be protected because he's in a Hindu area. So my mother gave a shelter, whatever toys, whatever food, the swing, and entertained him. And when everything was quiet, the riot stopped, and there was some kind of curfew or whatever where people couldn't even come out. And the government helped stopping all that riots between Hindu and Muslim. My mother sent the boy to the Muslim area, and they had a family union. So this is the mother of a woman. At any cost, she will give the shelter to anybody without even looking whether that's enemy or friend. Then that's what Bhrigu Muni's wife did. But when Lord Vishnu cut her hair off just because she gave shelter to demons, Bhrigu Muni got very upset. And he cursed Lord Vishnu that you cut hair of my wife, and this way you separated me from my wife, and my wife is separated from me. I curse you, Lord Vishnu, that you will have to go back to the earth, take a birth as a human being, and your wife will also take a birth as a human being. And in those days, a day will come when you will be separated from your wife, and your wife will be separated from you. So Sumantra is narrating this story, and as time came, Lord Vishnu incarnated as Lord Rama, and the goddess of fortune came as a Mother Sita. And here we see this is the time, not the first time they are getting separated. When Ravana kidnapped her, that was also a kind of separation. But here we see this is kind of permanent separation between husband and wife. A lot of people are asking what happened in their life. But this was the result of the curse of Bhrigu Muni. Try to get the blessings of sages instead of getting curse. It's not possible to approach any sage, but if you see any sadhu, any devotee, any senior devotee, some sadguru or sannyasi, try to get some blessing, but make sure you don't offend them and be cursed by them. So, here we just saw that she was separated, and Sumantra at this moment narrated the story, and Durvasa Muni told Dashrath that I know Vishnu has come in this world as your son, and I know he got married to Mother Sita, and they are happily living with you. But pretty soon they will be separated from you. Not only that, but they themselves will be separated when they go away. He is indicating towards the Ravana's kidnapping. And thus eventually your son will have to abandon her for the permanent separation, because Bhrigu Muni has cursed him that when you become a human being, you will have to suffer the separation. So this is the story. And now hearing Sumantra's words, Lakshmana felt great relief and expressed his sincere gratitude to the chief minister Lakshmana. And Sumantra passed the night on the banks of a river and next morning resumed their journey. Now here it says, Drashtasmabhi parirudrita draddam shokaparayana anarha dukkha shokana ekadina anathavat. Some disciple of Valmiki happened to see Sita weeping, and they ran to their master saying, O master, come quickly. There is a woman who resembles the goddess of fortune herself, sitting alone in the forest, crying. By the dint of his mystic power, Valmiki could understand everything. He rushed to the place where bereaved Sita sat. The sage humbly approached her and said, O devoted wife of Lord Rama, O daughter of King Janaka, by the strength of my austerities, I know all that takes place within the three worlds. Thus I understand your plight. Please do not be afraid. Near my ashram, there are ascetic women who will devotedly care for you as if you were their daughter. Please come with me now and consider this to be your new home. Valmiki then took Sita and placed her under the care of female ascetics. So then Mother Sita delivers two boys, Love and Kush. Now, here in Ayodhya, Lord Rama is ruling the kingdom, and one day a dog appears at his doors. The dog was bleeding. So Ram says, now those were the days when animals were able to speak to human beings, and human beings were able to communicate with any animals or the birds. So the dog showed his skull was broken. And Ram said, what happened? He says, there is a Brahmana, and he did this. He says, I was just sitting on a road, and he asked me to move, but I'm too slow to move. So he hit me and broke my skull. So Ram summoned and called that Brahmana in the court, and he asked the dog, what do you think? How should I punish him? So dog says that make him the head of the Kalanjara monastery. Make him a Kulpati. Make it the chief. The institution where cows are protected. Institution where there is a beautiful temple and deities are worshipped. Institution where a lot of students are trained in scriptures. Make him a head of that. Rama and other people, they laughed that after all this is animal. He doesn't know what is justice, what is injustice. Instead of punishing the Brahmana, the dog is asking to promote him to the highest position available on this earth. So they said, you do not understand the intricacies of karma. But the dog seemed to know that. Prompted by Rama, the dog explained, Lord Ram, in my last life I was head of the Kalanjara monastery. I duly worshipped the demigods and brahmanas. I performed my sacred duties carefully and properly maintained the servants and maid servants. Still, regardless of so much care, trying to leave nothing undone, I took my next birth as a dog due to some unknown fault. Now just consider this Brahmana who cannot even control his anger. He is certainly unfit to be spiritual leader. For his audacity in accepting such a position, such a big position, he will now degrade 7 generations of his family. How can a man who is unable to control his temper be put in charge of Brahmanas, cows, and deity worship? Everybody wants to jump on altar. There are so many services for Krishna. But if I ask someone, can you cook for Krishna? Say, no, that I cannot do that. Can you sweep for Krishna? No. Can you make garland for Krishna? No. Can you help in the kitchen cutting vegetables? No. They just want to jump on the altar. Yes, you can do that. But here is the example that even the dog was perfectly doing his work in previous birth, right? He was head of the monastery, did not do anything wrong, and still he became a dog. What to speak of this Brahmana who lost his temper and broke the skull of the dog? That's why dog says, I am not helping him. This is not the benediction. This is a curse. So the dog says, Kruddho nusansha purusha advidvanshapya dharmika kulani patayetyeva sapta sapta chirago. 7 generations from his father and 7 generations from the mother, all will go to hell with him pretty soon. He should have thought before accepting the position. So, the message here is that if you think you are not qualified, you should stay away from certain positions. A president of the temple, so many duties. But if you think you are not qualified for that, don't get into that. Because even a slight error can send you to hell. So, all kind of beautiful stories are actually in Ramayana. So, let's jump back to Valmiki's ashram, where Love and Kush were actually trained in reading Ramayana, which was compiled by Valmiki Rishi. So, we started first day that Love and Kush were singing Ramayana in the city of Ayodhya. And Ram happened to hear those verses, 24,000 of them, and glorification of Lord Ramchandraji, Lakshman, and Mother Sita, and all that. So, one time when they were singing, highly astonished Rama inquired, "What are you singing? This is a Mahakavya. How many parts are there in this epic poem? And which sage composed it?" The twins replied, "Kim pramanam idam kavyam ka pratishtha mahatmana karta kavyasya mahata kvachaso muni pangava." The twins replied, "O king, the great sage Valmiki is our spiritual master, and he is the author of this great literature that depicts the entire history of your life. The poem consists of 6 parts, and the 7th describes your concluding pastimes. If you desire, we shall recite the entire Ramayana during the period of your sacrifice." Thereafter, Rama listened with unbound pleasure as Love and Kush recited the Ramayana for many days. At last, Ram concluded, "These boys must be the twin sons of Sita, There is no doubt about it. Rama's heart melted due to the affection for his sons. After considering the matter very deeply, he called for messenger of impeccable etiquette. He ordered them, go at once to the ashram of the great sage Valmiki and speak to him the following words. If Sita is indeed blameless, if her character is faultless, pure, then let her come here with your sanctions so that she can prove her innocence before all the assembly citizens. So, O messengers, please hurry back with their replies. Let Sita come tomorrow at dawn and establish her inquiry, purity in my presence. When Sita heard Rama's proposal, she could not comply, for they considered such a public trial a great humiliation. Thus, coming to a firm decision in her mind, Sita dressed herself in reddish cloth and started for Ayodhya with Valmiki. A large crowd had assembled from all over the Koshala kingdom, for everyone was very curious to see Sita. Indeed, all of the demigods headed by Lord Brahma, as well as the foremost rishis, nagas, siddhas, and other celestial beings, came to witness trial of Sita's purity. Finally, Valmiki arrived, followed by Sita. Her head bent low, her hands joined in supplication, tears filled her large eyes, and Lord Rama was firmly fixed in her heart. As the assembled citizen murmured in anticipation, Valmiki approached Lord Rama and said, so this is interesting what Valmiki ji has to say. Bahuvarsha sahasrani tapascharya maya kruta nopasniya phalam tasya dusteyam yadi maithili. He continues, manasa karmana vacha bhutpurvena kilbisham tasyam phalamanshami apapa maithili yadi. Again he says, ham pancheshu bhuteshu manashastheshu raghava vichinta sita shuddheti jagraha vananirjare. Valmiki approached Lord Rama and said, O son of Dashrath, here is righteous Sita, whom you abandoned out of the fear of public scandal. She has come here to prove her purity. Thus she awaits your command. O Ram, I, who have never uttered a lie, make the following declaration. If Sita is tainted by even the sightless guilt, then may the results of my accumulated austerities prove eternally fruitless. Although you loved Sita deeply and were convinced by her innocence, you still discarded her out of fear of public opinion by dint of my spiritual vision. I can understand Sita's completely purity. Thus, I have come to proclaim this truth to you. Now it's Ramchandraji's turn. And he says, Loko pavado balavan yena tyaktahi maithili gnenam loka bhayad brahman napapetya bhijanatam. Ram gazed upon Sita for a moment and announced to the assembly, I accept all the great rishis has said. Previously the demigods also testified as to Sita's purity, and I happily took her back to Ayodhya. However, people began to criticize me, and thus, with great reluctance, sent her away. Now I have decided that if Sita can prove her innocence before this assembly, then I shall again accept her as the wife and assembly. Also inviting Mother Earth and praying 3 times. Sita says, Yathaham ragavadanyam manasapi na chintaye तथा मैं माधवी देवी vivaram datum arhati. Madhavi Devi is Bhumi, mother of Madhava, Krishna's wife, Mother Earth. Manasa vacha karmana yatha ramam samarchayet तथा मैं माधवी देवी विवरम दातुम अर्हति यथे तत्सत्य मुक्तम मैं वेद्मि रामत परम न च तथा मैं माधवी देवी विवरम दातुम अर्हति. Sita said to assembly, O goddess of the earth, please hear my petition. If since the time of my marriage I ever thought of anyone but Lord Rama, or if I ever loved any man but Rama, then refuse me shelter. However, if I have only dwelt with Rama in thought, word and action, then please give me the place within you, so I need not experience the shame of facing this slanderous people. So in the Bhagavatam, Shukadeva Goswami says, slanderous rascals. So that's what it is. That it's not just a person in Ayodhya or Ayodhyavasi. Slanderous, that's us. We are all. So the next is Tasmintu dharani devi bahubhyam gruhmaithilam swagatena binandyana asane chupaveshayat. While Sita spoke, the earth suddenly opened up, and from the crevice the goddess Bhumi majestically rose up. Seated upon a golden throne borne by divine serpents, the goddess welcomed Sita, took her in her arms and seated her at her side on the throne. Then while from the sky and from the earth the demigods and sages, kings and common people looked on in astonishment, the celestial throne slowly descended into the bowels of the earth. So that was the end of Mother Sita, and at the same time the Rama Katha. It says in Ramayana, Shunvan Ramayana Bhaktya Yah Padam Padameva Va Sayati Brahmanasthanam Brahmana Pujyate Sadam Evame Tatpuravruta Makhanam Bhadramastuva Pravyaharata Vistrabdam Balam Vishnu Pravardhatam. So, Srila Prabhupada is translating here and concluding Rama Katha with these words.